Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reviews That Don't Matter with Jessica Hitt. My name is Jessica Hitt. On today's episode, we are talking a Riverdale recap, episode 7 of Season 2, Chapter 20. Okay, it's been 2 weeks since we've last gotten an episode of Riverdale, so let me kind of catch you up really quick. Remember, Betty decided to kind of double-cross the Black Hood by giving the Candyman over to the police, but the Black Hood decided to shoot him in the police station. How that happened, not sure exactly, but it does highlight, of course, Riverdale's police and sheriff problem. They need to step it up. Anyway, so she kind of thought she got one over on him, obviously did not, threatened to find out who he was and expose him, all that good stuff. What else is happening? I can't remember. Let's just get into this episode. This episode was definitely structured a lot different than what we've seen in Riverdale from the past. They are actually trying to take risks, I think, and trying to be, I don't know, just trying things different, see how they work. So this is kind of following around 3 different parts of this day and a half for these people. So you first start off with Archie and Jughead, and then you get Josie in the middle, and then you get Betty and Veronica at the end. Now, I kind of like when shows do things like this, but the thing that Riverdale did kind of wrong, in my opinion, is it wasn't interconnected enough. It only felt like there was like one thread through each one. Like you first start with Archie and Jughead, and you just see Cheryl kind of bulldozing through them, and you're wondering what that's about, and then you see the scene with Josie, and then doesn't really come back up with anything else. And then you also, in the Archie and Jughead, it starts off with Betty and Jughead in his bed. She slept over. And basically that kind of, both of their storylines kind of happened there. It wasn't interconnecting enough for me. So I'm going to go through this episode the way that this episode decided to tell its story to us. We're starting with Archie and Jughead. And, you know, I was not very into this whole storyline. Basically, that lawyer, the serpent lawyer that was helping out Jughead beginning of the season with his dad, who his dad, F.B. Jones, warned him against and said, do not do any favors for this woman, is requesting a favor for helping out his dad. And she basically just tells him, hey, when you and your friend Archie decided to pull that stunt and get the ghoulies all arrested, they attacked him in jail, in prison. That is where F.P. Jones is, and he's badly hurt. So you need to help me out so I can help you out and protect him. Now, when this was all happening, I was kind of like, how the hell does she know before Jughead, who is his son, his family member, know before that F.P.'s hurt in prison? That is the first thing that anyone knows, is that the family knows first. The lawyer, sure, but she is not his official lawyer. F.P. Jones never hired her, so she should not know before Jughead does. Also, Jughead does not check up on this fact until way later, and that we will get to in a little bit. And in my opinion, the only thing that saves this whole storyline with Jughead is Archie. Archie is back to being hero Archie, and is kind of just like trying to be the sensible one, and I actually really appreciate it. I've been really liking Archie the last 2 episodes, and this one is no different, because he is like, he's hero Archie, but he's there for Jughead. He will help him run these drugs, because they both know that drugs are in there. It's jingle jangle that they are deciding to sneak into this Greendale facility or whatever with these weird Russian mobster type people who apparently the ghoulies were the ones who were like delivering all of this stuff to, but now the ghoulies are in jail, all the big wigs are. It's down to the serpents, and Jughead basically gets blackmailed into doing it forever until they figure something out. And Archie, thankfully for him, is smart enough, you know, even though the tire blew when they were trying to deliver it, and okay. This whole episode is rife with bad decisions. The worst decision is definitely when the tire pops, and Jughead's freaking out, and he decides that the next person that pulls over has this truck, and he's really creepy and really weird. They put the giant box on there, and then Jughead gets in the car. He's like, Archie, only has seats for me. I'm going. I got to get this done. Archie waits for Triple C, which is Riverdale's version of Triple A, to get a new tire. And then while this creepy guy is like teaching Jughead about the Riverdale Reaper, which was this old school murderer that still people don't know if was caught or was hung by a whole bunch of people in a park, like weird stories, and this guy's creepy, and he basically tries to dine and ditch and be like, this kid's paying for it, and I'm taking your box. And I don't know where all of that came from, but luckily, Archie was smart enough to follow them, find them, see their car on the side of the road next to this diner or whatever that they went to. And he goes in, and he stops them right in time. He puts them on his debit card, which thankfully he has a debit card or a credit card or something on him. And Archie and Jughead are back together, and they deliver this parcel thing, this big box full of jingle. And they deliver it to these really creepy people who are just like, oh, you're my new driver, great. And then, yeah. And then Archie and Jughead decide to go eat at Pop's Diner, chocolate shop. And Jughead's like, okay, they're talking, and Jughead's like, I need to go see my dad. And so he goes and sees his dad at the very beginning of visiting hours, and he's not beat up at all. He's perfectly fine. Basically, this penny lawyer serpent girl has decided to get back at F.B. Jones for something that he did to her, and get back at him by brutalizing his son by getting him involved in drug trades and get him in trouble. He's blackmailed because they have a videotape of it, and Jughead should know better. Let's be real. Jughead is a smart kid, and he definitely grew up watching crime shows or reading crime books or seeing crime movies. He should know that he should always check to see if his father is hurt, because the prison would have called him, or Sheriff Keller at least would have let him know. Like, Jughead knows Sheriff Keller, friends with Kevin Keller. Like, they know each other, so he would have given the courtesy call and be like, hey, I'm sorry, your dad got beat up in jail. But he wasn't smart enough to think and check on that first. So, you know what, Jughead, you deserve everything that happened to you in this episode. Then it goes to Josie and Cheryl and their kind of really random interaction for this whole thing. So basically, Josie has had this secret admirer leaving things in her locker. Not sure who it is. Chuck Clayton, the guy from last season who was just kind of a terrible guy in general, decides to ask Josie out. He's trying to change. He's trying to become a better person, which I genuinely think he probably is. I think he's tired of having this bad reputation, and it kind of can tell whenever someone says something to him. Like, it really does anger him. And whether that's going to put him in a position to where he's going to do something bad, or if I don't know quite what they're doing with Chuck Clayton, to be honest. I don't know what they're doing with any of these side characters, especially Josie. Josie's supposed to be a lead character. She does all of these interviews. She goes to Comic-Con with the cast, but she barely is in this show. Let's be real. She's barely in the show. And all of a sudden, she gets this huge highlight in this episode, which I'm fine, because I like Josie. I'd actually really like a lot more from Josie and the Pussycats in this series. Josie is practicing for this sort of solo venture, and the Pussycats find out. They kick her out. So Josie's figuring this whole thing out. She's with Cheryl. And remember that Cheryl almost got date raped by Nick Saint Creep is what she called him, or something like that. And Josie and Veronica and all of them saved her. But she's really latching on to Josie. They were pretty good friends beforehand, but now they're closer. And so she's kind of the confidant in all this and trying to help her out with her solo career or whatever is happening. So basically, there's this whole weird sort of creepy thing where there's this janitor, you don't really know what's going on. He's kind of letting Josie stay at night. I think he has a sort of friendship, you know, he appreciates Josie, she's nice to him. And they kind of make you believe that he is the one leaving the stuff in the locker, and kind of like stalking her a bit. And Josie gets this like weird thing that's like a picture of her as like, if I can't have you, no one can. So it's like really creepy, and you're like, what's going on? And people are like, it's Chuck, but it could also be this janitor. And that's kind of what the show's making you believe, is it's the janitor and not actually Chuck. And then they totally accuse Chuck in front of everybody after Josie had this like kind of cute date with Chuck Clayton that got totally mixed up with her mom and the sheriff coming in, and her mom's really mad. Her mom's the mayor, Mayor McCoy, and yeah, McCoy's been getting death threats, and they've threatened her daughter, so she's really worried about her. A whole bunch of stuff's happening with the McCoys. And then so her and Cheryl go up to Chuck Clayton in the middle of the sort of common room and sort of just basically call him out on being this secret admirer who's really creepy and is like gonna do something weird to Josie. That he's a bad guy and all this kind of stuff. And then it ends with Cheryl drawing a picture in the same form as that picture that Josie got in her locker from her secret admirer with Josie and Cheryl. And the show is making you believe that Cheryl's the one doing this and that she's become obsessed with Josie. So I don't know where that happened exactly. And Josie also had bad decisions in this because, it was pretty obvious that Chuck Clayton wasn't responsible for any of this whatsoever. And then she just blames him, and that's totally against her better judgment, let's be real. Now we're going to go on to Betty and Veronica, which is just also rife with bad decisions and stupid character choices. Now, the only thing that saved this whole part of the episode is Veronica. So the MVPs of this episode are Archie and Veronica. For sure. Betty is crazy. She seems to think that Sheriff Keller is the Black Hood or is kind of mixed up in it because she cannot believe that someone couldn't sneak into this dopey little town's sheriff station and shoot the Candyman in his cell. Is it really that hard to believe? So this whole episode is really just Betty and Veronica, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. Betty thinks that he's a murderer, and Veronica smartly thinks, no, he's having an affair. Sheriff Keller is having an affair. That's why Kevin is so worried about him, and he's sneaking out at night. She knows what these things look like. She's from New York. And Betty is absolutely convinced. She's so down on herself for thinking that she got the upper hand on the Black Hood, and she didn't get the upper hand. And then she decides to sneak into Sheriff Keller's house, her best friend Kevin Keller's house, and then sneak into the Sheriff Keller's office that has all of the stuff. She gets caught by Sheriff Keller, and Sheriff Keller being the good guy that he is, because I genuinely don't think that he's the Black Hood or a bad guy whatsoever. He sits down, talks to Betty and her dad, Hal Cooper, who's a little creepy, let's be real. He could have something going on with this. Anyway, he sits down with Betty. He gives her an alibi, which he does not need to do, to every single murder that's happened. And then he's like, and you know what? I'm not going to tell Kevin because I think this would devastate him for you to think that his dad is the Black Hood. And you know what? Good on you, Kevin Keller, or Sheriff Keller. I don't know Sheriff Keller's first name. Also, God, he's a hot dad. That scene with his no shirt. Whew. But what we do find is, because Betty doesn't believe it for some reason, any of these alibis, goes to Veronica, and they decide to do a stakeout. And they decide to follow him. That's what stakeout is, obviously. Sorry, I'm rambling in this episode. Anyway, they find out that Sheriff Keller is indeed having an affair, which Veronica's very smartly said, but with Mayor McCoy. Both of them are married, just putting that out there, and they're both having an affair with each other. So that's happening, which I liked that twist, actually, because it kind of, you kind of almost didn't believe Veronica or Betty's theories, something else was happening. But then I like how they actually stuck with Veronica's theory, because it's a very smart theory, and they gave it to Mayor McCoy, which I was not expecting. So then the episode basically ends with everybody at Pops in their own individual storylines. Did he send out, a text to people, or did he put something in the newspaper? I cannot remember for the life of me how he sent this message out where he was like, I'm going to give you 24 hours. If everybody can not sin for 24 hours, then you're off the hook. If you do sin, one person sins, then basically all hell is breaking loose. And they all sinned, of course. They did really bad things. So he calls Pop's Chocolate Shop, which I don't know why he does that. Probably because he's obsessed with Betty, and Betty's there. So he calls him, and Pop comes out, and he's, scared. He's like, that was the Black Hood. He said we've all failed him, and the reckoning is here. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. What is this town? No one knows protocol. No one can think about this smart. Come on, people. Get your head out of your ass. You can do this. So really, I'm not the biggest fan of this episode, to be quite honest. I don't like the way it was structured. I like episodes structured like this, but I think it needs to be more interwoven to where, I don't know, and I feel like this was more of a Halloween episode. If you begin with the Josie and Cheryl stuff, and it has, that creepiness, and then it goes into Archie and Jughead, and then it ends with Betty and Veronica, I think that would be better, and then have it way more interconnected. But instead, we got this really, random Josie storyline, and Jughead and Betty both making very stupid decisions. And it's just like they're both so much smarter than that, especially considering the show makes you believe that they are the smart ones. And honestly, I hope this season's all about Archie and Veronica being the smart ones, because I'm into that. I think we need to shed some light on Archie and Veronica. So yeah, that's my review of this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on this episode, this season so far? Also, don't forget to subscribe. I make videos Monday through Friday. See you on Monday with something. Okay, bye.